Welcome everybody to the Goes to 11 Vise Squad. Today I'm going to show you how to tie a Lefty's Deceiver pattern. So in the vise we have a 3/0 Togens Salmon Steelhead stainless steel hook in 3/0. We're going to be tying with some UTC GSP 100 denier. So we're going to start our GSP at about the center point of the hook. And we're going to trim off the excess. And we're going to tie in our first material, which is some strung saddle hackle. We're going to try and find 4 feathers that have a similar bulky shape, same length roughly. Alright. So now that we have our 4 feathers, we're going to lay them back to back so that they splay apart, and we're going to make sure the tips are fairly lined up. We're going to tie these in on the back of the hook at about the halfway through the fluff point here, so right about where my fingertips are. So we're just going to set that right on top of the hook, do a couple nice tight binding wraps. That's our first set of feathers. We're going to grab our second ones and we're going to do the exact same. We're going to put them back to back with the tips lined up. We're going to match the length on the first 2. We're going to tie them in. We're then just going to grab our tags on these feathers, and we're going to work our way up the hook shank a little bit, and we're going to trim out our excess and bind down everything really good. So we're just going to pull off a few of these stray feathers and wrap this down really good and clean it up a little bit. Alright, so now that we have our 4 hackle feathers, or saddle hackle feathers tied in to form the tail, we're going to add some flash. Here I have some Chartreuse. It's almost more like a pearl crystal flash from Togens. We're going to take, I don't know, half a dozen fibers, give or take. We're going to trim them off. We're just going to pull the tips apart so that we have them staggered a little bit. They're not all one big clump. And we're going to tie these in just shorter than the hackle feather fibers. So we're going to pinch that on the side of the hook. A couple nice securing wraps. And we're going to grab this other side, pinch it, pull it over top, and capture it on the far side. And if everything works out, you pretty much split your crystal flash, and it should be about the same length. You might have to trim 1 or 2 fibers, but it should be pretty close. Our next material is some Flashabou. This is 6925. It's a mix of pearl, black, and silver. We're going to pull off, again, about half a dozen strands, give or take. Again, we're just going to taper the ends a little bit by pulling a few out, making them all a little different length. We're going to tie these in just a touch longer than those hackle fibers. Again, this should work out to about halfway point, and we shouldn't really have to cut anything. Again, we're going to grab everything and fold it over to the other side, pull it along the side. As you can see, everything's about the same length. The Flashabou is about the same length, the crystal flash is about the same length, a little bit shorter in the tail. So we got a nice flash profile. The black in there gives a little bit of a lateral line. So at this point you could add some crystal braid, some tinsel, whatever you'd want here. I find it unnecessary. You never see this part anyways. So we're just going to advance our thread up after we clean this up a little bit. We're just making sure everything's nice and secure. We're going to move our thread to right in behind where we trimmed the hackle feathers. So our next material is some white bucktail. We're going to grab a clump about a half a pencil width in diameter, give or take. We're going to trim that from the hide. We're going to pinch it towards the tail. We're going to pull out all the short fibers. Throw them in the garbage. So that's going to give us perfect length there. You want about 3/4 of the way down the hackle feathers. So we're just going to trim our butts off nice and square. And we're going to tie these in right on the top of the hook. And we're going to spin these over to the far side of the hook. And then really bind these down. So essentially we've laid the bucktail on the side closest to you, farthest from me, and we're going to repeat this stage on the side closest to us, or myself. So I'm going to grab about the same size, half a pencil width, the bucktail, trim that from the hide again. Same process. Pull out all your short fibers. Again, we want it about the same length as the last one. So once we got our length, trim our butts again. And we're just going to tie this in on the side of the hook. Pull everything tight. Wrap her down. So what we basically have made here is 2 side pieces to form the body. We're next going to get an off-color shade of bucktail, which in this case I have a nice olive. And we're going to grab a slightly larger clump than our whites. It's about 3/4 of a pencil instead of the half that we were using on the white. We're going to trim that free again. Pull out our short fibers. And on the olive, we want to tie this a little bit shorter than our white. So now that we have our measurement, we're going to transfer to our other finger, trim off the ends. And we're going to lay that right on top and capture this. Trim out these extra fibers that I somehow managed to get in the way. And we're just going to clean things up a little bit. Alright, now that we have a nice full head created, we're just going to whip finish. A couple whip finishes in there. And trim out our thread. We're then going to turn our fly sideways. And we're going to apply a drop of UV clear thick from Loon to attach our eyes. Set that eye right on top of the thread dam we've created there on the head. Make sure you got her square. Hit her with your torch. We're then going to repeat the exact same thing on the other side. Again, make sure that your eyes are square. We're then just going to fill in the top and bottom with UV resin to form a nice little round bulkhead on here. So I'm stroking the bucktail back that little bit while I'm doing this also, and by doing so, when you cure your UV resin, your hair is going to be pointed backwards and not pointed straight up like a hollow tie would be almost. Just makes for a little more streamlined tie. Alright, so once we got her cured, I like to come in with a little bit of Solarez Bonedry. I find the Loon is a little bit tacky on cure, so by coming in with the Solarez afterwards, it gives it that nice hard head on it, and I find it gives it that little bit extra gleam to it. So again, there you have it. Lefty Deceiver pattern. Pretty simple to tie. They really work great on a sink tip line. Become one of my new favorite streamers. Thank you for watching today. I hope you enjoyed today's pattern. If so, please give this video a like. Also, please hit the subscribe button and don't forget to click the reminder bell beside it so you don't miss any future content. Thanks again, and until next time, tight lines.